Something went wrong while generating the response. If this issue persists, please contact us through our help center at help.openai.com. But she's old, sir. Far too old. Last week she fell. Her body can't handle 2 babies anymore, so I brought them here because I had no choice. Daniil's lips twisted. That's not my problem. You should have found another solution. Neighbors, a shelter, anything. But not this. You don't bring children into my house without permission. Her eyes flashed, though her voice stayed calm. A shelter. She almost laughed, though it sounded more like a sob. Do you know what happens to children in those places? How quickly they disappear into a system that doesn't care. My mother begged me not to let that happen. She said, Lena, keep them close. Don't give them to strangers. So I brought them here. I thought, maybe you wouldn't notice. You were wrong. Daniil's voice was sharp as glass. You worked in my house while hiding 2 extra mouths. Do you realize how that looks for me? For my reputation. Reputation? Her voice trembled for the first time. You're worried about your image? And I'm thinking how to keep them alive. Sir, with all respect, that's a luxury I can't afford. Daniil slammed his hand on the counter, making one of the babies whimper. He lowered his voice, but it stayed hard and clear. Don't put this on me. You broke my trust. You lied to me. Lena's breathing quickened, but she didn't back away. She adjusted the carrier, holding the small faces of the children closer. Yes, I broke your trust. But I didn't break the promise I made to my sister. I told her before she died that I would take care of them. So if you want to fire me, go ahead. But I will not leave them. Her words cut through the air like a blade. Daniil stared at her. Anger boiled in his chest. He wanted to fire her on the spot, to remind her of her place. But something in the way she held the children, not as a maid but as a woman cornered by life, made the room heavier. He stepped back, jaw tight. 3 days. No more. This can't continue. You crossed the line. Her lips trembled, but her eyes stayed locked on his. I know. But sometimes survival means crossing the line. You've never had to choose between work and family. But I had to. And I chose them. The soft cries of infants filled the silence, like cracks spreading through Daniel's armor. He pressed his palms against the tabletop, breathing heavily, eyes fixed on Elena. She didn't look away. For a housemaid, she stood with more resolve than most men in his meeting room. You think I should just turn a blind eye to this? He finally said. His voice was low and restrained. You think I built all this by letting people break the rules? No, Elena replied. Her voice remained steady despite the lump in her throat. I think you built this by making decisions when others were too afraid. And I'm not afraid to say this is my decision. I won't abandon them. Daniel's mouth twitched in irritation. He wanted to throw her own words back at her. But his gaze fell on the children. A tiny hand had slipped out of the carrier. The fingers moved helplessly in the air, as if reaching for something, anything. You lied to me, Elena, he said coldly. I didn't lie, she corrected him. I hid them. Yes, it's a betrayal. But it's only for 3 days, sir. Until now, my mother has done everything. Feeding them, rocking them, praying for them. But her strength is fading. You know what time does to a person. When it takes away their health. I couldn't leave her alone. To break under the weight of 2 infants. She begged me not to do this. Her voice cracked on the last words. And Daniel noticed. It moved him more than her resolve had. He rubbed his chin and stepped aside. So what now? You expect me to run this mansion, while you deal with your family problems. You'll carry children around while scrubbing countertops. I expect nothing, she said firmly. Do whatever you want. Fire me, replace me, erase me from this house. But I'll leave with my head held high, because I didn't turn away from them. I didn't close my eyes. Her words landed heavier than she'd intended. Daniel looked at her, and something in his sharp gaze faltered. He wasn't used to being challenged. Not in the boardroom and certainly not in his own kitchen. One of the infants whimpered. The soft cry drifted through the room. Elena gently rocked them, whispering, "Hush now, my sweet ones." Her voice softened, but her body remained tense, braced for his verdict. Daniel exhaled slowly, his fists unclenched. He no longer saw just a housemaid in uniform. He saw a woman fighting on too many fronts. With grief, with poverty, with duty. And yet, despite it all, she stood here still working, bearing more than anyone should. "You should have told me from the start," he finally said. "I know," Elena admitted. Her eyes glistened. "I was afraid you'd think I was weak, afraid you'd throw me out. I couldn't risk everything all at once. And yet here we are," murmured Daniel. She steadied herself. "If you want me to leave, say so, and I'll pack my things today." The words slipped out of him before he could stop them. "I'm not firing you." Elena blinked, stunned. "What did you say?" He softened then, though his tone still held authority. "You made a serious mistake, but I've seen people with millions in their pockets who wouldn't lift a finger for someone else. And you carried 2 children while cleaning my house. That kind of devotion, that kind of strength. It's not something I can just cast aside." Tears welled in her eyes, but she lifted her chin proudly. "And now what?" Daniel looked at the infants again. Their innocent eyes followed his movements. For the first time in years, something stirred in his chest, something undeniably human. "Now," he said carefully, "we set some rules. They don't come here again without my permission, but I'll make sure your mother gets real help. Doctors, medicine, maybe a caretaker, to ease her burden. And as for them," he paused, then added quietly, "I'll see what can be done. No orphanages. No system that would swallow them whole." Elena's lips trembled in disbelief. "You really mean that?" He gave a short nod. "Not for them, for you. Because you've proven something few ever do. Some promises are worth breaking the rules for." Her knees nearly gave way, but she stayed upright, clutching the baby carrier tighter. "Thank you, sir," she whispered, her voice shaking. Daniel turned away. His face remained unreadable, but the steel rigidity in his posture softened, giving way to something heavier, a sense of responsibility he hadn't expected to feel. As he left the kitchen, Elena leaned against the counter and finally let the tears fall. The babies nestled closer to her, their warm breath brushing against her chest. She kissed the tops of their heads, whispering, "We're safe, my loves. For now we're safe." In the silence that followed, the billionaire's footsteps echoed through the corridor, and though he would never admit it aloud, one thought wouldn't let him rest. Sometimes wealth is measured not in rubles, but in the lives you don't turn away from. The sound of Daniel's steps echoed through the hallways of his luxurious mansion on Rubliovskoye Highway. He entered his study, where the walls were lined with paintings by contemporary artists, and a massive oak desk was covered in documents and a laptop. Closing the door behind him, he sank into his leather chair, but the familiar comfort brought no relief. Thoughts of Elena and the 2 infants refused to leave him. For the first time in many years, he felt that his perfectly constructed world had cracked. Daniel was a man accustomed to controlling everything, from billion-ruble deals to the smallest details within his own home. He had built an empire in the tech industry, where every mistake could cost millions, and every wrong move threatened collapse. But this situation with Elena was different. It didn't fit into his calculations, nor did it obey the logic he'd lived by all his life. He could have dismissed her with a single word, yet something inside him, whether conscience or a long-forgotten sense of humanity, wouldn't let him. The next day, Elena came to work without the children. Her face was paler than usual, her eyes red from lack of sleep. But as always, she went about her duties with her characteristic precision. Daniel watched her from afar, standing by the living room window. She was polishing crystal vases, straightening the curtains, moving with the same calm confidence with which she had defended her nephews the day before. He noticed how her hands trembled slightly, though she didn't allow herself even a moment of weakness. "Yelena," he called as she passed by carrying a tray of clean linens. She stopped, turned to him, but didn't lift her eyes. "Yes, sir." "I meant what I said yesterday," he said, crossing his arms. "I'll find a way to help your mother and the children. But I want to know everything. Who is their father? Why did he disappear, and why didn't you ask for help sooner? Yelena took a deep breath as if gathering strength. Their father's name is Alexei. He was my sister Katia's husband. They lived in a small house near Moscow in Sergiev Posad. He was a good man, but weak. After Katia's death he broke down. He said he couldn't handle it and left. No one knows where he is now. I tried to find him, but... She fell silent. Her voice trembled. I didn't ask for help because I was afraid. In our family we were always taught, handle things yourself. And I did until Mother fell. Daniil nodded. His expression softened. All right. Today I'll arrange for a doctor to see your mother, and a nurse if needed. But I want you to be honest with me. No more secrets. Yelena looked up at him then, her eyes glistening with restrained tears. I understand. Thank you, Daniil Sergeyevich. In the following days Daniil kept his word. He hired a doctor to examine Yelena's mother, Anna Petrovna, and prescribed her treatment to help her recover after the fall. The caregiver came every day helping with the children and household chores. Yelena no longer brought the babies to the mansion, but Daniil noticed that she began working even harder, as if trying to prove she was worthy of his trust. But the story didn't end there. A week later, Daniil was sitting in his office going through reports when his phone rang. It was his lawyer, Igor, the man he trusted with the most delicate matters. Daniil, I checked the information about the children's father, Alexei, Igor said. I found him. He's in Ekaterinburg working at a construction site. Looks like he doesn't want to come back. He says he can't raise the children alone, but he's willing to sign the documents to transfer guardianship to Yelena officially. Daniil frowned. And what does that mean for her? For the children? It means Yelena could become their legal guardian. But it's expensive, legal services, paperwork. Plus, she'll need to provide housing, education, everything for the kids. She won't manage it without support. Daniil thought for a long moment. He could have just brushed it off, it wasn't his concern. But something inside him had changed. He remembered Yelena's words. Some promises are worth breaking the rules for. And now he felt that helping her had become his own promise. Arrange everything, Igor, he said finally. I'll cover the expenses. And find an apartment closer to the center of Moscow, convenient for Yelena and the children. Not too expensive but decent. There was a pause on the other end of the line. Igor was clearly surprised. Are you sure? That's not really your usual style. I know, Daniil replied curtly. Just do it. Months passed. Yelena and the children moved into a new apartment on Tverskaya Street. It was modest but cozy, 2 bedrooms and a small balcony where Yelena sometimes drank tea while watching the city. The twins, Masha and Vanya, started attending kindergarten, and Anna Petrovna, thanks to the treatment, was feeling much better. Yelena continued working for Daniil, but now she smiled more often, and there was genuine gratitude in her eyes. One evening, as Yelena was finishing the cleaning, Daniil entered the kitchen. He rarely spoke to her about personal matters, but this time he stopped by the doorway. How are they? He asked, nodding as if the children were nearby. They're well, Yelena replied with a warm smile. Masha already speaks in full sentences and Vanya's trying to catch up. Thank you, Daniil Sergeyevich. You've changed our lives. He waved his hand dismissively as if it meant nothing. I just did what was right. But deep down he knew it was more than just the right thing to do. For the first time in years he felt that his wealth wasn't just numbers in a bank account, it was the ability to give someone a chance at a new life. And perhaps, it was his own chance to become the kind of man he could finally respect. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss new inspiring stories about struggle, survival, and hope. Write in the comments what you would have done in Daniil's place. Let's keep the discussion going.